the name of the show today. What we're going to do is, at the present time, if I can get an outside view here, here we are. We are presently at Graz in Austria. I'm going to demonstrate to you yesterday what we learned yesterday. I'm going to demonstrate to you how important those pitch and power values can actually be. And so I have prepared something, and right, in the meantime, I'm going to get the aircraft configured. Payload 61 tons. That's about fine. So we'll just take that. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take departure 17 center, and then we'll do landing later on runway 35 center. Wind is pretty calm. Standard atmospheric conditions, so that helps with no or very little wind. And standard conditions like QNH 1013 and 15 degrees Celsius outside temperature. Petersby, hi. Welcome. Eamon, hi. Do you have the latest Windows 10 patch? It's messing up my P3D. Unfortunately, yes. It was installed automatically, and however, I'm lucky, I guess. At the moment, everything's running very smoothly. Oh, another thing, guys. I've had issues with the microphone on the last stream. So if you hear the microphone crackling or something, just spam some emotes. The best emote to spam is this one here. Then I'll know that my microphone is messed up, and I'll restart it. So pretty much prepared. We're not going to do much for the departure route. It's pretty much basic flying. I'm going to turn off the flight directors straight away and not worry about... hang on, let me just get the speeds at least. Flaps 1. We'll do a tour guide takeoff. And then... yeah, we'll climb 5,000 feet. That should be fine. Alright, so let's get the engine started. We have APU bleed already, and so engine 2 start. It's very quiet, isn't it?
Right. There are 8 emergency exits. 2 doors at the rear of the cabin. 4 windows.
Let me just try something here. Hang on. Oh, that's why the engine sound is turned down.
Time to locate your nearest exit.
Right, engine 1 is running, so 2 is running, so we'll start engine number 2. Alright, we'll see how that goes. Right, after start flow. And so we'll do the flight control check. We have full left, full right, neutral, full down, full up, neutral, and the rudder full left, full right, neutral. After start checklist. Anti-ice is off, ECAM status is checked, and the trim is .2 up and 0. So after start checklist is completed. So we're all clear to go. Yes, nobody there to hit. hitting Q twice. No, unfortunately, it didn't do any good. It's okay, I can hear it. I mean, maybe I was just getting used to the 777 sound today. Yeah, outer brake max will come during taxi towards the runway. It's not included in the after start flow. Oh, Ollie asked, are you somehow connected to the FSLabs team to tell them what they can do better? No, I'm not. I did try, or was contacted by them to try out the beta version for P3D. And so, that's loud, okay. So, apart from that, I have actually no contact to them, no. Right, so now we'll do the outer brake max and we'll do the config test. So everything's normal before takeoff checklist, flight controls checked, flap setting is 1 plus F. Takeoff speeds and flex, so 135, 135, 136. We'll put that up in here. 136 for V2 and the power is Toga. So we're in Graz, Austria at the moment. And the EKMEMO takeoff, no blue. Entering the runway, we're gonna switch on some lights. So approach sector is clear, departure sector is clear. Top Twitch displays doesn't work right now for this. Okay, alright, no worries. So let me get the heading buck to the front, 165 or 168 it should actually be. Right, everything is good, then let's take off. So manual flight, guys, no flight directors armed at the moment. 50% power. And we have Toga power set. A 100 knots.
V1.
Rotate. Positive climb, gear up. Why am I not in the managed mode? Because we're doing a workshop demo, exactly. So we're flying pitch and power. And so what I mean by that is the pitch regards to the pitch attitude and the power refers to the thrust setting of the engines. So presently 92%. Right, so gonna reduce now to climb power. Climb power is set, and we'll accelerate about 10 degrees pitch. Should be fine for the acceleration now. The aircraft will accelerate and we'll climb up to 5,000 feet. And so guys, for those of you flying the A320 yesterday, do you know the pitch and power values to fly, let's say, 250 knots at 5,000 feet? So I think pitch should be around 3 degrees and the thrust setting should be around 60, maybe 58%, depending on the weight. So, like I said yesterday, this just helps you for basic flying. I'm going to just set the pitch now, slowly to 4 or 5%, and I'm going to reduce the power to 58%, and let's see what happens. Yeah, Millender. At the moment, the gross weight is around 61 tons. Options. Yeah, we're weighing 61.5 tons. So, Millender set 3.5 degrees, which is about here. Just a bit more, maybe. And the power at 58%. So 58% is set. Works perfectly, right? I mean, who needs a flight director? Who needs an autopilot? So nicely stable with those power settings. So if I wanted to fly 220 knots, what power settings would I need? Yeah, if you were to do a rule of thumb, gross weight minus 3% would give you roughly the power that you require for that. Alright, so let's set 55% and see what happens. So 55%, I'm going to maintain level flight, and the pitch will obviously be a little bit higher because we're flying slower. We have to create the same amount of lift to maintain level flight. And so the pitch will obviously go up just a little bit, and then the aircraft should stabilize at around 220 knots. Um, 68% as a because a bit too much for the it's 220 knots, not 280, 220 knots. So for the A320, it's about 54, 55, maybe even depending on the weight. 55% should be fine actually. So you'll see that the speed is coming down very slowly. Yeah. So the pitch is just increasing marginally, just a little bit more to maintain 5,000 feet. And yeah, that's the power setting that works for flying around 220 knots. MCK, the magic behind these numbers is to help you improve with manual flying. There's a nice video on YouTube. It's called Children of Magenta. And it refers to the way pilots nowadays are being trained and use the aircraft. And I've told yesterday in my workshop that up to about 5, 6, 7 years ago, the most death in civil aviation occurred because of flight into terrain. That caused the most death up to 5, 6, 7 years ago. Then suddenly things changed because the enhanced GPWS system made pilots more aware of the terrain situation, and also the warnings came out a lot earlier. And so now the biggest killer is loss of control of the aircraft, which is, if you think about it, is unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about professional pilots here flying thousands of hours in their plane, and yet loss of control has become the biggest killer. And so why is that? It's because automation is very reliable and pilots have gotten used to it. So it's a matter of staying proficient with manual flying. And one of the things that you have to do is be able to know a few pitch and power values. And that's what was talking about yesterday in the workshop. 55%, 5-degree pitch will keep you nicely flying. Yep, I love that YouTube video, it's really good. Alright, so now what we're going to do, we're going to climb up to 10,000 feet. And at 10,000 feet we did the same exercise yesterday. And I'm sure that a lot of flight sim pilots get into the same trap. They get used to flying so much with the autopilot system and pressing buttons and not really doing basic flying. And then suddenly, when you have complicated approaches, where you have to do manual flying, circling approaches, visual approaches for example, they just can't do it. They can't get a stable approach. They can't stabilize the aircraft properly. And so this is what's meant by basic flying, pitch and power control. So again guys, 10,000 feet, 60%, roughly 2.5–3 degrees will give you the stable conditions. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to fail some systems here. And so what I'm planning to do, let me just see, where's Graz? Graz is over there, 40 miles, that's fine. So I'm going to turn off the displays on this side. So 1 is off, 2 is off, and then I'm gonna fail ADR1. So I don't have any speed indications and no altitude indication here on my display, and I'm gonna hide that instrument with the engine instruments. Let me just clear that. So now I have only pitch indication. I don't have altitude. I have a vertical speed indication, which is fine, and no speed indication. Alright, so now we will try to land the aircraft in Graz just using the... Let me just get the QNH in here, nothing else, and the RADNAV Oscar Echo Golf is tuned. Alright. So I'm just going to use basic pitch and power values to try to land the aircraft in Graz now. So no speed indication, no nothing. At the moment I have ground speed. I'll use that to configure the flaps because I don't want to get into overspeed with the flaps. But apart from that... Hey Brendel, good evening. So presently we're in descent. We're trying to get towards Graz right now. So no flight path vector, no nothing. Just basic pitch and power. Buddy, hello, good evening. Welcome also. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to judge the height. I'm not going to use the radial altimeter for now. I'm just going to judge the height. We're about 30 miles away, and so at some point I'm going to level off and then intercept the ILS. ILS is now identified. So for the pitch and power values, if I'm going to set about 56% power, so I'm going to level off. I'm going to pitch up to about 5 degrees initially, and then set about 55% power. Now the aircraft, as you can see, it's already leveling off, and the aircraft will slow down to about green dot speed. Now green dot, I know that green dot has about 6 degrees, 7 degrees of pitch, and it'll need about 57% power. I know that, so we'll just let it stabilize with those values. And as a matter of fact, at the moment it's flying almost on the dot with these settings. So I don't have any idea how high I'm at the moment. Maybe 6,000 feet, 5,000 feet, I don't know. It doesn't matter really. So the speed, you can see the ground speed slowly decreasing. And what I'll do, since I don't have the speed indications, what I'm going to do, I'm going to select flaps 3. I'm going to do the flaps 3 approach. And those of you who had the Airbus yesterday to practice, what do you think are the final settings with gear down? Already the glide slope already. So I'm going to descend a little bit further now, idle descent. So what should be the... yeah, green dot should be at around 6 to 7 degrees and 55%, 56% power, depending on the weight. And so for the config 3 landing configuration, it should be around 6 degrees, 57% N1. That's a bit high N1 setting MCK. The Airbus, the FSLabs Airbus doesn't take quite as much power. So a little bit less. Yes, Crewcraft, there is a checklist, QRH checklist, unreliable speed. And there are some standard pitch and power values which you can use, yeah. So config 3, 48%, alright. And 3 degrees. 6 degrees, 52%. Okay. Let's see. At the moment I have a gross weight of 61 tons, so pretty much max landing weight. Alright, 5 degrees, yeah, and 48, 50%. Alright. So config 3 I think should be around 45%, 46% power, and you're right, 5 degree pitch. That should be correct. So I have 213 knots. I'm going to select flaps 1 now. There's the runway, and now again I'm going to level off. I'm just going to pitch about 5 degrees. And the speed is coming back nicely, 5 degrees, 7 degrees. And I know with this kind of pitch, I'm going to have to select flaps 2 now. So I'm going to give it about, with flaps 2, level flight, 62%. Try to stabilize the aircraft. And it shouldn't really accelerate too much. 60%, looks good. Right, so there's the runway. I'm going to select gear down. We'll start to continue to accelerate. Now I'm going to switch off the navigation display so that I don't have a ground speed indication anymore. So now I don't have any indications regarding speed, only pitch and power. So flaps coming 3, final setting. Now I'm going to try to get onto the localize and glide slope, which I am. And I want the 5 degree pitch, and we set 45% power. Round up 46% maybe. So if things are stable now, if we have the right power and the right pitch setting, then we should be able to descend with about 800 to 700 feet a minute.
2,500.
So the pitch is a little bit low, so I think I'm a bit fast. So I'm going to slow down even more until I reach those power settings and those pitch values. So if I'm too fast, obviously I create more lift and I need less pitch, less angle of attack. So now, to maintain 700, 800 feet rate of descent, now I'm getting to more and more like 5 degree of pitch. So here we have the correct pitch attitude. So I'm going to select 46% again and see how that goes. 46% here. So let's have a look what speed we're actually at. we're at 142 maybe, 442, and we should have 140. So it does work nicely. So looking again for the 5-degree pitch, we have 800 feet of rate of descent, and we should have about 45, 46. So the Airbus doesn't really need much power. And so yeah, this is basic flying, pitch and power. You don't need any speed indications. You can trust the instruments as long as you have a N1 rotation indication or EPR indication and you have a pitch value. There's absolutely no reason to fall out of the sky.
$1,000.
1,000 feet is checked. And again, a little bit slow, coming up to the correct speed now.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
And Adrian's 82, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the channel. So here we are, 45% power, about 4 to 5 degree pitch, stable descent. I don't need a speed indication at all. So what I'm going to need is going to orbit low. Landing checklist, Ikamimo landing no blue. Done everything we need.
300.
So, oh, go around. Flaps. 15 degrees pitch up. Gonna switch off the flight directors straight away. Alright guys, I need you to help me out now. I'm gonna have to fly a pattern, a visual pattern. Which pitch and power values do I need? So I'm at pattern altitude maybe. So flaps 2, I'm gonna select flaps 1. What powers? What pitch and power value do I need now? So I have level flight. I'm gonna hide the speed indication here. So let's say I want to fly 200 knots around green dot. Flaps 1 doesn't make much difference to clean. No, just here at this pattern altitude. So I can see that I need quite a lot of pitch to maintain altitude, so I'm a bit slow, I would think. I'm gonna have to increase the speed just a little bit until I get the... Yeah, 15 degrees, but we're doing a low pattern here, so with 1,000 feet, just doing a visual pattern. Right, so now the pitch and power value of about 55% and 5 degrees should work. So let's have a look. 55%, 5 degrees, that's fine. It works, right? It's a stable flight, maintaining altitude. So there's the airport. Alright, so I'm going to start to slow down again. And so what I'm going to do now, in order to configure the aircraft, I'm going to put idle power. And I'm going to try to maintain altitude. And once the pitch reaches about 7-8 degrees, then I'm slow enough to select flaps 2. Alright, flaps coming 2. Now I have a little bit more drag. I'm probably going to need 60% power to maintain altitude and speed. So as long as the speed remains stable with a certain pitch and power value, then I know that I have the correct values. So yet again, maintaining altitude, 5 degrees steady, so the speed isn't changing. As a Miko here. And I should be concentrating on flying and not talking to you guys while I'm doing a go-around. But anyhow, we're going to turn final now. And so like I said, this is magic. I mean, so I have no speed indication, so what? I mean, I don't need any speed indication. I have pitch and power. So I'm going to look for the runway here, which will hopefully come around in a second. Let's see, where is it? Alright, over there it is. So I'm going to maintain these values now until we hit the glide slope. And so what we're going to do once we hit the glide slope, here we are on glide, selecting gear down. And flaps 3. And so then we're going to select 55% power and then try to get the stable descent going again. So I'm going to slow down the aircraft until I have the pitch values again, 4 degrees pitch and a stable descent with 45% power. Once I have that, I know that I'm at the correct speed. Right, so now I can see I'm slowing down. The aircraft needs to have more and more pitch to maintain the 700, 800 feet descent rate. 1,000 feet is checked. So I'm still a little bit fast. The pitch still isn't correct, so I'm going to maintain that low power setting for now. Now I'm slowly getting to the point where I'm reaching the correct pitch value. So I'm a bit high in the profile, that's why I need a little bit less thrust at the moment.
300. 200. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 10, retard.
Right, so successful touchdown, reversers. And the outer brake is working, decel. Right, just gonna stop here on the runway. So, like I said, guys, you don't need, with good knowledge of pitch and power values, you do not need any speed indication at all. Now, if you have a speed indication and a pitch indication and thrust settings, you can stabilize your approaches when you're flying manually. You have your basic values. So for me it was like for flaps 3, 45% and a pitch of 4 degrees. I know those values, so when I do the approach, I aim for those values once I'm stable on the glide path on localizer. And then, if I have a deviation, speed gust, something, I'm speeding up, okay, then I reduce the thrust maybe 3 to 5%, only small corrections. Once I get back into the correct speed, or the correct glide path, then again I set these standard values that I know that are correct, 45%. And that way, your approaches, your flying, your manual flying skills will become a lot better. And that applies for all aircraft. 737, 777, 747, A320, even the propeller whatever, A320 Cessnas 172, it doesn't matter. Have a look more consciously at your pitch and power values.